Hello Smug Peeps, K-Man of Smugface Entertainment here, and today is a new episode of Smugface Commentaries. This is going to be my third commentary and my first with me on camera. So today's episode will be looking at He-Man Season 2 Episode 9, The Power of Grayskull. So without any further waffle, let's get right into it, shall we? Okay, here we go. So, Season 2, Episode 9, it's The Power of Grayskull. So I chose this particular episode because it's my favorite episode of the He-Man 2002 show. I'm in the minority who feel that this is a better series overall than the 80s show. And that's largely based on how great the stories were written and that there was more action, more drama. Okay, so this is the opening scene where it's not He-Man, but it's his ancestor King Grayskull fighting off the Snake Men. One of the things I liked about this particular episode is because of the portrayal of Hordak, who we're about to see in just a few seconds. There's the sorceress. There he is. Very menacing and intimidating. This is not the same villain that we saw in the She-Ra episode from the 80s. Yeah. So it's a flashback. So apparently Prince Adam is having these visions, or nightmares rather, of an impending attack. He thinks it's a dream, but as we're about to see, it's not a dream, it's more of a premonition of what's about to happen. The sorceress is just about to warn him. Okay, switch to Snake Mountain. Very accurate portrayal of the Snake Mountain that we saw in the 80s show. Skeletor's just going absolutely berserk, and then he's in a lot of pain right now. It's because he's being mind controlled by Hordak. The thing I really loved about Hordak's portrayal, even though it was only in this one episode that we see him fully, was he was very menacing, very intimidating, very powerful. I think across the board, from the different versions of Hordak we've seen in the animated series, whether it's this one or the She-Ra episodes, both the 80s She-Ra and the Princesses of Power She-Ra that we saw, as I can't remember what year that was in, and then in the recent He-Man animated show where he appears, I feel that this portrayal in this particular episode is the most menacing. And as you can see right here, he's just absolutely decimating Skeletor with mind control. Now, I'm not going to say I know the lore of He-Man as such, because I was more just into the cartoons growing up. But in the comic books, I think Hordak is is a sorcerer. I think that's the route that they took, going back to this very episode. So instead of the 80s Hordak portrayal that we saw in the She-Ra cartoons, where he was just able to turn his body into all forms of mechanical machine or mechanical weapons, they just reverted back to him being a very powerful sorcerer. As I'm talking about that, I'm completely skipping over the action. So Skeletor is just abandoned Snake Mountain. Yeah, he's on his way to go and free Hordak at Hordak's request, and of course Evelyn suspects there's a lot more to it than what's been seen. Here we are with this scene where the sorceress is taking Prince Adam into the depths of Grayskull, and he sees the statue of King Grayskull, which is He-Man, his ancestor, what he used to be before it was passed down to Prince Adam to when he eventually becomes He-Man. So the visions that Adam saw in his dream are very centered around King Grayskull. So this is more of a flashback episode, but a very good flashback episode. So he's just going back to when they've just defeated the Snake Men, but they know the Snake Men are regathering their forces, and then there is the Horde who are on their way. So the Horde, as all these villains do in the He-Man world, just want to take over Castle Grayskull and Eternia. It's very well done, I think, when you see the conflict between the forces of evil, where it's a situation where whoever wins, the good guys are in trouble, because if it's the Horde or it's the Snake Men, their aim is to take over Grayskull and rule Eternia. So I'm trying to remember what this scene is. Trying to no, is it the power they're trying to discover? I should have watched this beforehand, but anyway, yes, this scene right now is another flashback. So Hordak is watching over. We're always watching Castle Grayskull from afar, and now that he's defeated King Hiss, he's now preparing to gather his forces to go back for a second assault on Eternia. Of course, one of Hordak's men is advising not to do so, and Hordak, being the evil villain that he is, doesn't take well to the bad news and just absolutely disintegrates him. And again, this scene just demonstrates how powerful, how great Hordak is, and like I said, it's my favourite iteration of him across all the animated shows or appearances that he's had, and I really, really wish we could have seen more of this. I believe the makers said that they had prepared to have Hordak appear in the third season, and that She-Ra was going to be introduced. That's something I wish that had really happened, but obviously it didn't, for I think it was toy reasons, because the action figures weren't selling as well, because unfortunately the premise on these shows is if it continues, the toys have to do well, and the toys apparently didn't do too well, so that's why it was cancelled after 2 seasons. Anyway, yeah, I'm talking about it's King Grayskull, and there is his wife, the ex-sorceress, who would go on to become Tila's ancestor. So what you're seeing is He-Man and Tila's ancestors, who are a married couple, and they're preparing for battle against the Horde. I forgot to mention that during the initial fight, He-Man loses his sword in battle with the Snake Man. Commentaries aren't the easiest thing to do because you have to keep talking, which is why I'm trying to get a second person to come and watch these with me. So it's easy to bounce off of because I have to keep talking. I don't want to fall into the trap of just watching and then forgetting that I have to talk. Because I'm so used to watching these things just in a relaxed manner, but this is obviously for my commentary. If you're watching along, I do apologize that I'm not exactly following the action on screen. I'm sort of talking over the scenes that happen. It's what they do in commentaries. They don't necessarily go bit for bit. I think when I first started commentaries, I was trying to literally follow the action as it went along, and it was a bit too fast at times, and I would just lose my place. So I'm trying to go a little bit, well, not slower, just not rush things. So I believe they're seeking the Great Oracle, which is basically Orko's ancestor. Nothing like Orko himself, but even more, a bit more powerful, a bit more wiser, even though it doesn't quite come across initially. The Great One, I think he's called. Yeah, the Great One. We see the initial appearance, and he seems to be a very menacing figure, and then we get this. Basically, like an older version of Orko looks like a like an absolute joker. So yeah, he's seeking a great power. So I think Orko's or his ancestors about to put him through some trials. Such a I don't know how I felt about that. I felt they could have had Orko's ancestor be a bit more serious. I mean, he is, but you can see they've clearly riffed over Orko as we know, but just this one's a bit more serious and a bit more powerful. This is basically what Orko will eventually become as time goes on and he gets older. He gets, quote, wiser as such. I missed that. The Corridor of Mythos, I think. Yeah. So they're going through the dreaded Valley of Dragons, seeking the great power. If you've already seen this episode, you know what the great power eventually is. So I don't know if I should say anything and spoil it. The thing I love about this cartoon, it's you can really put it in the same bracket as like Gargoyles or Batman animated series in terms of its seriousness, its edginess. The 80s show, because it was aimed at kids, it's the most popular version, but it was also quite campy. So they got rid of all the campiness, which is what I really loved about this version of He-Man. And to date, I think I've already said this, it's already well, it's my opinion, it's my favourite iteration of He-Man throughout the animated series. So I said Hordak, that version, or the version that we see in this episode, is the best. And I think overall this iteration of He-Man is the best. It's my personal best. It's everyone's free to debate their own opinions, but I just think that this version of He-Man, overall, just the way it's done, the way it's drawn, the way it's voice acted, the way the stories are written, this is perfect, which is why I was so disappointed that it only went on for just 2 seasons, because I feel they could have gone on for another 2, because it's such a greatly animated show. Anyway, here's King Grayskull looking to get to the great power, having to brave the very treacherous snow. Oh, I should mention that I'm using OBS to watch this, so I've got 2 screens. So the one I'm watching on my desktop is just slightly ahead of what's on OBS, so there might be some delays in the audio. So also, I had to make sure the audio is down because, copyright reasons and all that. Anyway, there he is. He's made it into the cave, and he's met up with the Great One again. The Great One says that he's passed his trials, and if he's seeking the great power, there it is in the box. So as I was saying earlier, if you've already seen this episode, you already know what the great power is, which is just basically the sword that he lost in battle. By the way, that's a really cool looking sword. Well, all I'd like to know is, I don't really know the origins of King Grayskull, because he's like a powerful warrior, a powerful king. So when Prince Adam becomes He-Man, he's channeling the energy of King Grayskull. So yeah, was King Grayskull just naturally born into a powerful, strong warrior? Anyway, going back to what we're seeing in the scene, King Grayskull's a bit disappointed that the only great power that he thought he would be getting is just the sword he lost in battle. So he's a bit forlorn and accepts that he has to go into battle with the Horde. Oh yeah, and this is a really good part here when the Oracle tells him that he will not survive the battle with the Horde and Hordak. Because they're very well done here. Just the whole build up to it. So yeah, he accepts his fate, and then he's getting ready to go into battle. And now we're about to, here we go, the final scene. So epic. There's Hordak with the Horde, and everyone's just charging toward Eternia. And it's just one man and one and there's a cat, Battlecat's ancestor as well. So everyone, all the main characters like Orko, Battlecat, the Sorceress, all have their ancestors, and Teela with the Sorceress as well. So anyway, they're all preparing for a battle, and it's amazing though. It's just him. I mean, that shows what a powerful warrior he was. But it's just him literally against an entire army and a very powerful wizard. We're about to go into battle right now. This is just so well done. How massive is Battlecat, by the way? The old one. Just charging through all the soldiers anyway. Grayskull just easily dispatches his minions, Mantana and is that Grizzlaw? I think I've forgotten. Yeah, Grizzlaw. I've forgotten who the other guy is. I'm gonna have to look that up as I finish up the edits. And here we are, the confrontation between Grayskull and Hordak. Hordak is just so brazen. This is definitely not the same Hordak that we saw in the 80s. This one is more menacing, more intimidating, more powerful. Like I said, it's based on what was in the comics with Hordak. It's just incredible how powerful Hordak is. Just with one gesture, just blows away He-Man, or rather King Grayskull. He's about to summon forth the portal to the terrible dimension of Despondos. I'm watching this from a very casual point of view. I'm not a He-Man buff. I mean, there's this YouTuber online, very well known serial geek, who's a walking human encyclopedia for all things He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. He's someone I wish I could have done an episode like this with. Anyway, yeah, Grayskull is getting an absolute hammering from Hordak's forces here, so it's just literally just bombarding Grayskull with energy beams and rock creatures, and it's like Battlecatcher's facing the Horde on his own. He's being stomped on, as you can see here. Literally just looks at the sword and just realizes he has the power, and that's a kind of, I think, the genesis from where He-Man will eventually, or Prince Adam will eventually have the power of Grayskull. Here he goes. Oh, I should also give a shout out to Cam Clark, the voice of He-Man, Prince Adam in this series. Very well known for his time as Leonardo on the original 87 Ninja Turtles. I thought his portrayal of Prince Adam He-Man here was very good. Obviously not as good as John Owen from the 80s. But yeah, he channels all his energy and then just proceeds to wipe out the entire Horde. Then sucks them into the portal, which is below Grayskull. I think that's kind of dangerous, I would think, if you're going to suck your enemies and trap them in the dimension which is just below the main cabin of Grayskull. It just sucks everyone in, including Hordak. Now I don't know if this bit killed him here when Hordak just flies through Grayskull. Was that the bit that did it for him, on top of being trampled to death? Anyway, Hordak falls into the void, and the sorceress foretelling the prophecy that King Grayskull succeeded, but at a great cost, which was Grayskull's life. Now, if they had gone a little bit more edgier, we probably could have seen some blood, like we saw in the animated He-Mans that got released in recent years. Well, I love the way this was done. Very well done. So he's about to die, so what's going to happen is, once he goes, his power will fill the elders, including his wife, the ancient sorceress. I've forgotten her name now, I'm just completely blanking. So he believes that peace has now come, so now that the Horde is gone, but the Snake Men were still sort of there, but they were beaten, so it took them forever to gather their forces back. I should probably do another commentary on He-Man with the Snake Man episode. That's another great episode as well, for a future episode anyway. Grayskull, yeah, he loses his life, and his power just fills up the elders that guard the castle and his wife. So his wife will continue to guard Castle Grayskull until she's no longer able to, and then she will have her future not ancestors, sorry, here, the one which we all know to be the sorceress, to take over and become the new guardian of Grayskull. So you just see the sword here just engulf everybody, become one with them, the sword, by the elders, they say. This creates that little not coffin but box for the sword to be kept in, and returns to Grayskull. So it's amazing, this whole episode was really mostly a flashback. So we're about to see now. So the sorceress is just basically telling Prince Adam what happened when the Horde last tried to invade Eternia. So the dream that he's been having wasn't a dream, it was a warning that Hordak plans to return. As earlier we saw Hordak control Skeletor and basically force him to help bring him back. So here we are, I think towards the final scene when Skeletor's getting ready to do Hordak's bidding, but there's He-Man blocking the entrance, warning him it's not a good idea because if Hordak is free, then Eternia's in trouble. But he also gives Skeletor the idea that if the sanctuary that Hordak is kept in is destroyed, then Hordak cannot return. So Skeletor hears this, and instead of doing what he was supposed to do, decides to go into business for himself to keep Hordak from returning, and just destroys the sanctuary completely, much to Hordak's dismay. I would have loved to have seen Hordak return and then eventually face Skeletor, and how much in trouble Skeletor would have been. So Skeletor runs off laughing, and from a distance, and first of all, He-Man is like, wow, it's like he wanted him to be free. And there we see Evelyn, who says, very, very interesting. And we come to a close, and it's a last minute, what's it called, moral stories. Like I said, these didn't really fit in for me with the 2002 version. It worked for the 80s, but I think this is something that they could have done without here. Well, on that note, I hope you enjoyed the episode and my commentary. I'm still winging these, so I'm just literally going by what I'm seeing on the screen, and yeah, just trying to give my thoughts on it. I hope you enjoyed my commentary, more to come, and thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe if you liked what you saw, and I'll see you next time. Take care.